If you own a small business, your tax situation just got a little more complex. Here's what you need to know to file properly and avoid any surprise visits from the IRS. Hello and welcome to Practical Personal Finance, where you get the information you need to understand and succeed with money. Today, I'm going to give you an overview of what you need to do to file your taxes as a small business owner. This is a moderately complex topic, so I'm going to break this video down into 3 parts. In part 1, I'll cover what you need to do before you start filling out any tax return forms. In part 2, I'll give you an overview of how to file the proper forms for your business. And finally, in part 3, I'll help you understand how your business tax return factors into your personal tax return. Make sure you stick around until the end for a tax filing tip that saved me over $5,000 the first year I used it. There's a lot here to cover, so let's get to it. It seems like more people than ever before are starting their own small businesses, and for good reason. It's very liberating to take something you're truly passionate about and turn that passion into cash. But then tax season comes around and causes so many headaches that the 9-to-5 starts to look attractive for a few months. We've all been there. But the truth is, filing your taxes as a small business owner is not necessarily difficult. It all starts with some good preparation. I like to break that preparation down into 2 steps. Step 1 is doing a thorough review of your books and making sure they are all in order. And when I say your books, I'm specifically referring to your records of business income and business expenses from the past year. Every January, I go back through all my records from the past 12 months and double check that everything is accurate. I look at all my income and make sure that's categorized properly. And then I look at my expenses and make sure they're all categorized properly. All of my business income and expenses flow through a single business bank account at my local credit union. If you're operating a small business, this is an absolute must because you don't want your business expenses getting tangled up with your personal expenses. That's how you accidentally commit tax fraud. And trust me, you don't want to do that. With my video production business, I have 2 major categories for income and about 24 categories for expenses. Once I'm done going through and checking for accuracy, I compare the amount on my books with the amount actually in my bank account. The fancy term for this comparison is called reconciliation. If all your income and expenses are properly categorized and if you've reconciled the accounts, your books are ready to go. This whole process usually takes me 2 or 3 hours to do. If it's taking you a lot longer, it's probably because you aren't keeping up with your bookkeeping throughout the year. Try to set aside an hour or 2 at the beginning of every month to tackle your categorizing and reconciliation for the previous month. It makes the whole process a lot easier in January. Step 2 is submitting the proper paperwork for your employees and independent contractors. If you have employees on payroll, you need to issue a W-2 form for each employee. 1 copy goes to the IRS, 1 copy goes to the employee, and you keep 1 copy for your records. This is usually something your payroll provider will take care of for you, so you don't need to worry too much about it. Just make sure they have all the information they need and that it actually gets done. If you have independent contractors, including other small businesses you hired for a specific purpose, and you paid those contractors or small businesses more than $600 in the past year, you need to issue a 1099-NEC form for each one. The NEC stands for Non-Employee Compensation. Again, 1 copy goes to the IRS, 1 copy goes to the contractor or small business you paid, and you keep 1 for your records. In order to fill out the 1099 form, you're going to need a W-9 form filled out by that independent contractor. I can tell that all these forms are already starting to get confusing, so let's pause for a second and just review each one. A W-2 form is for bona fide employees of your company that are on your payroll. All it states is who you are, who they are, how much money you paid them in the past year, and how much taxes you withheld from their paycheck. A 1099 NEC form is for independent contractors or other small businesses which you paid more than $600 in the past year. All that one states is who you are, who they are, and how much you paid them. There's no tax withholding for independent contractors. And finally, the W-9 form is a form that you need to have your independent contractors fill out and return to you. That one just gives you their name, address, and taxpayer identification number, or TIN. It's basically an official document that gives you all the information you need to fill out their 1099-NEC form. Sometimes it's a challenge to get someone to fill out one of these W-9 forms. So what I recommend you do is have them fill it out before you fork over a check for their work. That always seems to do the trick. The deadline to distribute these W-2 and 1099-NEC forms to your employees and independent contractors is January 31st. If you miss the deadline, let your employees and contractors know it's coming and file it late. Better late than never. Now that your books are in order and your workers are all taken care of, it's time to move on to filing your business tax return. For the vast majority of small businesses, it's either going to be Form 1040 Schedule C or Form 1120-S. It all depends on how your small business is structured from a tax perspective. If your business is registered as an LLC and you have chosen specifically to be taxed as an S corporation, then you'll need to submit Form 1120-S. This form will be submitted on its own, separately from your personal tax return. In addition to Form 1120-S, you will need to prepare an accompanying form called Schedule K1 for anyone who has ownership of the business. I like to think of this form as a 1099-NEC form, but for owners of the business. If you're a sole proprietor or if your business is registered as an LLC and you have not chosen specifically to be taxed as an S corporation, then you'll be going with Form 1040 Schedule C, and this form will be submitted together with your personal tax return. If your small business is a partnership, then you're looking for Form 1065 and the accompanying Schedule K1. To be frank, I don't have much experience with partnerships, but I do understand the process to be fairly similar to the S corporation process. That being said, I'm not going to cover partnerships specifically any further in this video. You've got three choices for how you can handle the preparation and filing of your business tax return documents. You can download all the forms and fill them out yourself, you can use some type of tax preparation software, or you can hire a tax professional to prepare the forms and file them for you. If it's your first time filing taxes for your business, I would wholeheartedly recommend using a certified public accountant or CPA to guide you through the process. If you want to try doing it on your own the following year, you'll be able to use the forms prepared by your CPA the previous year as a guide. For what it's worth, I'm a pretty frugal guy who likes to do things himself, and I've tried all three methods, including filling out the forms by hand after my first year in business at age 23. I now use a CPA to take care of my tax filings every year. For me, it's about the peace of mind knowing that the job is done properly, and that I won't get any visits from the IRS. And one more thing, just for full disclosure, there may be additional forms you need to submit based on the nature of your small business. Some common options that I've personally used include Form 1125-A for documenting cost of goods sold, and Form 4562 for depreciation of assets. These additional forms are yet another reason you may want to be working with a CPA. Once you're done with your business tax return, it's time to move on to the final step, your personal tax return. This part is just like filing your tax return without owning a small business, but with some extra forms. If your business falls into the S corporation category I touched on earlier, then you'll need to submit the following: Form 1040 along with Schedule 1 and Schedule E. You may also need to submit Schedule SE if you're not on the payroll and paying your payroll taxes through a regular salary. If your business does not fall into the S corporation category I touched on earlier, then here's your list: Form 1040 along with Schedule 1 and Schedule SE, in addition to Schedule C from earlier. Again, you have three choices for how to file: by hand, with software, or with a tax professional. My advice would be to stay consistent on your personal tax return with the method you've selected for your business tax return. As I mentioned earlier, I personally use a CPA, and if you're new to the world of small business tax filing, then that's what I recommend you do as well. And now for the tax filing tip that saved me over $5,000 in taxes the first year I applied it. If you're operating as a sole proprietor or as a single member LLC that has not elected to be taxed as an S corporation, then you're responsible for paying self-employment taxes on all of your profits. But if your business is registered as an LLC, you can elect to be taxed as an S corporation, the same designation I've been mentioning throughout this video. With an S corporation, you can pay yourself a, quote, reasonable salary for your work, which is subject to all the regular taxes like federal income tax and payroll taxes, including Social Security and Medicare. But any profit generated above and beyond that, quote, reasonable salary will not be subject to payroll taxes, meaning that for every $32,000 in profits, you stand to save roughly $5,000 in taxes. If that sounds like it would be worth it, ask your CPA about electing to be taxed as an S Corp. Do you have any questions about filing taxes as a small business owner? Leave a comment below and I'll help you out. If you enjoyed watching this video, you may be interested in the story of how I leveraged my small business to pay off over $175,000 of student loans in just 2.5 years. Click right here to watch. And if you're not yet a PPF subscriber, then click right here to hop on board. Thanks for watching. I'm Andrew Scheer, and I'll see you next time.